They lied to you. For years, Microsoft told you that your computer was fine, that you did not need to upgrade, and that Windows 10 would be supported until 2025. Then they changed the rules. Microsoft made Windows 11 require special hardware that millions of computers do not have. This means if you have an older computer, it cannot run the new Windows. Period. And here's what makes this absolutely insane. They are about to stop supporting Windows 10 completely. That means 240 million people, which is more than the entire population of Brazil, are about to be told their computers are obsolete. But the solution they do not want you to know about is free, legal, and already running on millions of machines around the world. I am talking about Linux. And in the next 25 minutes, I am going to show you exactly why that weird penguin thing your techie friend keeps talking about might just save your entire digital life. Let me be straight with you about what is actually happening right now. Microsoft announced that on October 14th, 2025, they will stop providing security updates for Windows 10. No more patches, no more fixes, no more protection against the newest threats. Your computer will still work, technically, but it will become increasingly dangerous to use. Hackers know exactly when support ends. They are already planning their attacks for that exact date. You think spam emails are annoying now? Wait until your unpatched Windows 10 computer becomes a target. Here is the problem, though. The only official way to stay safe is to buy a new computer that meets Windows 11 requirements. Those requirements include a specific processor, a special chip called TPM 2.0, and secure boot capability. If your computer was made before 2019, chances are it does not have these things. And Microsoft is not offering Windows 10 extended support to consumers. They want you to buy new hardware. But what if I told you that you have another option that costs exactly $0? Now let me explain how we got to this situation, because it matters for understanding why switching to Linux is not as crazy as it sounds. Microsoft has been pushing people toward Windows 11 ever since it launched in 2021. They made big promises about better performance, improved security, and a redesigned interface. But here's what they did not advertise loudly. They set hardware requirements so strict that an estimated 60% of computers running Windows 10 could not upgrade. 60%. That is not a small number. That is hundreds of millions of people being left behind. The official reason was security. TPM 2.0 and Secure Boot would protect against certain types of malware, they said, and that is partly true. But security experts have pointed out that these requirements also happened to force hardware upgrades, which is very convenient for computer manufacturers and for Microsoft, who gets a cut of OEM sales. You do the math on that one. The funny thing is, while Microsoft was making Windows 11 more restrictive, the Linux community was building operating systems that could run on almost any hardware from the past 20 years. I am talking about computers that would be considered ancient by Windows standards. Linux does not require TPM 2.0. Linux does not require Secure Boot. Linux does not care if your processor is 5 years old or 15 years old. It just runs. And over the past few years, Linux has gotten so much better that the old jokes about it being complicated are just not true anymore. You can install Linux on most computers in under 30 minutes. You can run it alongside Windows, so you do not have to commit fully. And many of your favorite programs actually work on Linux now, either natively or through compatibility layers. But here's what really matters. Linux is free, not free trial. Not free for personal use. Actually free. Forever. Microsoft makes money by selling operating systems and cloud services. Linux is maintained by a global community of volunteers and companies that contribute code because they want to, not because they need to turn a profit. This is where it gets really interesting. Microsoft actually contributed code to the Linux kernel. Yes, you heard that right. The company that built Windows hired engineers to improve Linux. Why would they do that? Because Linux runs on servers. Linux runs on cloud infrastructure. Linux powers the internet in ways most people do not realize. Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft Cloud Service, runs largely on Linux. So Microsoft realized that fighting Linux was stupid when they could benefit from it too. This created a weird situation where the company that sells Windows also helps make its competitor better. But that does not change the fact that they are still pushing their paid product hard and leaving people with older hardware in a difficult position. The good news is that the Linux alternative is better than it has ever been, and I'm going to show you exactly how to take advantage of it. If this video made you think differently about your computer situation, I need you to do something right now. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Do not just lurk, actually engage. YouTube rewards videos that people comment on, and I want this video to reach more people who need to hear this. Also, hit that like button if you got value from this. It takes 1 second, and it really helps the channel grow. Let me walk you through what actually happens when you switch to Linux, because I want you to understand the real picture, not the scary version that gets spread around. There are different versions of Linux called distributions. Some are designed for absolute beginners. Some are designed for servers. Some are designed for people who want complete control over everything. For someone coming from Windows, the best choices are distributions like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, or Pop! OS. These look and feel similar to Windows. You have a taskbar at the bottom. You have a start menu. You have a file browser that works the way you expect. It is not some alien interface designed to confuse you. The learning curve is much smaller than people think. I have helped people make this switch, and the most common reaction is surprise at how normal it feels. You will not feel lost. You will not feel like you need to learn a whole new system. You will feel like you are using a different version of the same thing, and in many ways, that is exactly what it is. Now let me address the thing everyone is worried about. What about your programs? What about Photoshop? What about Microsoft Office? What about games? These are valid concerns, and I am not going to pretend they do not exist. But the situation is much better than it was 5 years ago. For office work, you have LibreOffice, which is free and handles Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and PowerPoint presentations just fine. For creative work, GIMP has gotten really good as a photo editor. For video editing, DaVinci Resolve runs on Linux and is used professionally. For gaming, Steam works on Linux, and there is a compatibility layer called Proton that lets many Windows games run without problems. Is everything perfect? No. Some niche software does not work. Some games have issues. But for the vast majority of people doing the vast majority of tasks, Linux handles everything they need. And if there is a program you absolutely must have that only runs on Windows, you can actually run Windows inside Linux using virtualization. It sounds complicated, but it is not. You open a program, Windows runs in a window, you use your Windows-only software, you close the window. Done. The average person can do this after 5 minutes of setup. The security situation is actually better on Linux than on Windows, and this is important to understand. On Windows, you need antivirus software. You need malware protection. You need a firewall that you have to configure. You need constant updates that sometimes break things. On Linux, the architecture is fundamentally more secure. Viruses that target Windows do not even run on Linux. The way permissions work means that even if you download something bad, it cannot take over your whole system without your password. Updates are handled smoothly without forcing restarts at bad times. There is no built-in advertising in your operating system. There is no pressure to use Edge browser. There is no collection of your data for advertising purposes. You own your computer. It does what you tell it to do. That sounds basic, but after years of Windows 10 and 11 behaving in ways users did not ask for, this matters a lot. Before we move on, I want to make sure you understood the key point here. The reason this is happening is not because technology failed. It is because companies made business decisions that affected your technology. Understanding the difference is what helps you make better choices. Got it? Good, let us keep going. Let me tell you about the people who have already made this switch and what their experience has been like. I talked to hundreds of users in various communities, and the pattern is remarkably consistent. First, there is a period of doubt and fear. They are worried about the unknown. They have used Windows their whole life. They do not know if they can figure out something different. Then they take the plunge, usually because their old Windows computer is slowing down or because support end dates are getting close. After installation, which often takes less than an hour, they experience something unexpected. Their computer feels faster. Programs open quicker. The system feels responsive in a way it has not felt in years. Some of them suspect it is because Linux is lighter and does not carry the bloat that Windows accumulates over time. Others realize that their hardware is actually capable. It was just Windows that was holding it back through unnecessary background processes and forced updates. Within a week, most of them say the same thing. Why did I not do this sooner? That is the quote I hear over and over. Why did I not do this sooner? And these are not tech experts. These are regular people who use computers for work and personal stuff. Teachers, accountants, students, retirees, people who had no special Linux knowledge before they tried it. The environmental impact of this is something nobody talks about, but it matters. Every year, millions of computers that are still perfectly functional get thrown away because they cannot run the newest Windows. Those computers end up in landfills, leaking toxic materials into the soil. But with Linux, those same computers can run for another 5, maybe 10 years. You are not just saving money. You are reducing electronic waste. You are keeping functional hardware out of garbage dumps. You are making a choice that helps the planet, not just your wallet. This is actually a pretty significant benefit that does not get mentioned enough in these discussions. When you install Linux on an old computer, instead of buying a new one, you are literally making the world a little bit better. That feels good. Microsoft will tell you that their operating system is essential. That you need Windows to be productive. That Linux is for servers and weird hobbyists in basements. But here's the thing. Microsoft is a company. They want your money. They want your data. They want you locked into their ecosystem, so you keep paying them forever. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just business. And it is perfectly fine to acknowledge that, while also being grateful for what Microsoft has built. Windows is a fine product, but it is not the only option, and it is definitely not the best option for everyone. Especially for people who own older hardware and do not want to spend hundreds of dollars on new computers just so Microsoft can keep extracting value from them. If you know someone who is dealing with this exact problem, share this video with them right now. This is the kind of information that can save someone hundreds of dollars and hours of frustration. And when you share it, you become part of the solution for people who never knew alternatives existed. Hit that share button, help someone you know. Let me give you the practical steps for actually making this happen, because knowledge without action is useless. The first thing you need to do is check if your current computer can run Linux. Spoiler alert, it probably can. Almost any computer from the last 15 years can run a lightweight Linux distribution without any problems. You can go to the website for Linux Mint or Ubuntu, download an ISO file for free, and create a bootable USB drive using a tool like Balena Etcher. This process takes about 20 minutes and does not change anything on your computer yet. You boot from the USB drive and Linux runs live, meaning you can try it without installing anything. This lets you see if your hardware works, if your Wi-Fi connects, if things look okay. Only after you have tried it and decided you like it, do you actually install it. The installation overwrites Windows, so you want to make sure you have backed up your important files first. But the whole process from deciding to try it to having a working Linux system can take less than an hour on most computers. I have personally done this with people who had never touched anything outside Windows, and they were up and running within that same hour. Once you are on Linux, your files are still there if you had them on a separate partition or a different drive. Your documents, your photos, your downloads, they do not disappear. The operating system is different, but your data is still your data. You will need to install programs that do the same things you used to do: your web browser, your email client, your chat apps, your media player. Linux has alternatives for all of them, and many of them are the same programs you might already know. Firefox works on Linux, Chrome works on Linux, Zoom and Discord and Slack all work on Linux. The learning curve is really about finding where things are in the new interface, not about learning completely new software. For most people, this adjustment takes a few days. By the end of the first week, they feel comfortable. By the end of the first month, they forget they ever used anything else. The other thing I need to address is gaming, because I know a lot of you are thinking about your Steam library right now. Steam officially supports Linux. Most popular games run on Linux through Proton. This does not mean every game works perfectly, but the list of games that do work is massive and growing every month. Sites like ProtonDB.com show ratings for individual games, so you know what to expect before buying. Competitive games like Valorant and easy anti-cheat games used to be a problem, but improvements in compatibility layers have made huge progress. Is it perfect? No. If you are a hardcore gamer who plays the newest releases the day they come out, Linux might not be your primary platform yet. But if you play a mix of games and do not need the absolute latest titles immediately, you will probably be fine. And remember, you can still have Windows on a separate drive or partition for the few things that absolutely require it. The support situation is actually better than you might think. Linux has communities, massive, helpful communities. When you have a problem, you can Google it and find someone else who had the same issue and solved it. You can go to forums and ask questions and get answers from people who genuinely want to help. This is different from Windows, where support usually means paying someone or waiting in a queue. Linux communities are full of volunteers who enjoy helping newcomers. The documentation is extensive and growing. You are never really alone in the Linux world, no matter how lost you feel. That is a huge advantage that does not get mentioned enough. When something goes wrong on Windows, you are often on your own unless you pay for support. When something goes wrong on Linux, there is probably a forum post from 2019 that already solved it. Microsoft will continue to update Windows 11 and push new features and new hardware requirements. They will continue to collect data and show you advertisements and encourage you to use their services. That is their business model, and it is fine. But you have a choice now. You do not have to play by their rules anymore. You can take control of your computer. You can run an operating system that respects you. You can extend the life of hardware that still works. You can save money that you would have spent on a new computer. You can do all of this with Linux, and it is not as hard as you think. The barrier to entry has gotten so low that anyone can do it. You do not need to be a programmer. You do not need to be a tech expert. You just need to be willing to try something different and know that there are millions of people who have already made the same journey and came out the other side happy. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to this channel. We make videos like this every week that break down complex tech topics into simple, actionable information. Hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get notified every time we upload. You do not want to miss our next video because it continues exactly where this one left off. And if you want to go deeper on Linux, there are playlists below with step-by-step guides for specific distributions. Everything you need is here. You just have to take the first step. The bottom line is this: Microsoft made a business decision that affects hundreds of millions of people, and the solution that works for most of them is free. You do not have to accept being forced into buying new hardware. You do not have to accept that your perfectly good computer is suddenly obsolete. You do not have to accept that the only path forward costs money you do not want to spend. Linux exists. It works. It respects your hardware and your choices. And the community behind it is bigger and more helpful than ever. October 2025 is coming. The clock is ticking, but you have time to prepare, and now you know what to do. Your computer does not have to become a security risk. Your data does not have to be compromised. Your money does not have to go into Microsoft's pocket. There is another way. Make the switch when you are ready. Start small. Try it on an old computer. Get familiar with it. And when you are comfortable, make the full transition. You will be glad you did. And when you are using your old hardware that Microsoft told you to throw away, running an operating system that does exactly what you need, saving money every single year, remember that this was possible because you were willing to learn something new. That is the real story here, not the end of the road. The beginning of a better one. See you in the next video.